Hi everybody, welcome back to DayZ, and I thought I'd do a quick beginner's guide tutorial to how to survive in cold conditions, because at the time of recording this video the new Frostline map, Sakhal, isn't upon us, so I thought I'd hop on over to another cold map, Namalsk on PC. But don't worry, all the things I'm talking about here you can do them on console as well, just to kind of simulate hopefully the kind of experience we're going to get. Look how beautiful this map is. Absolutely fantastic. So maybe if you're a new player or you're coming back to DayZ and you just need a little refresh about the survival basics of living and surviving and thriving and fighting in a cold environment, the sort of stuff to kind of figure out. So as you can see, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you can see, fellas, if you look at the little blue temperature gauge, my character has gone blue, so he's gone hypothermic, which means he's very, very cold. But if you look at the gear I've got on, I've got some okay gear on, but the problem is it's wet. So one of the most important things to do is when you are cold or you're wet, find some cover that you can get underneath, because when you go inside somewhere, it's automatically a little bit warmer. And the problem is when you go hypothermic, like I am at the moment, you start using an awful lot of energy. So your food, if you like, is getting used up much quicker than it normally would be. Now, in this case, it's important to think, well, wait a minute. Okay, so I am on a cold server, but why is my character, so cold? And the reason for that is that I am actually wet. And as soon as your clothing or anything gets wet, it doesn't work as well in terms of its insulation properties. So as soon as you get wet, you want to be taking stuff off as soon as you can, and you want to be wringing it out. So put it in your hands, and if it's wet or soaking, you'll get the option to wring. Now, some stuff you'll need to wring it out a few times. So that is now damp. Let's have a look at my trousers. So let's get these off. And if you're trying to survive in the rain or the snow and it's cold, you're going to find yourself doing this an awful lot. You're going to be running in to cover, wringing out your clothes. Now, some things you can't wring out. Some things you've just got to put next to a fireplace to dry. But if you do something like that, you've got a chance of starting to warm up again. Now, let's talk about clothes. So you can kind of see what I've got in here, and every single clothes item, or every single item really you come across that goes near your body, if you look at it, it will have an insulation rating. And it's important to remember that insulation rating relates to the condition of the item and whether it's damp or wet or soaking as well. So as items get more worn, they will become less insulating, so you're going to get colder faster, and if they're wet, they'll do that as well. So again, in a cold, damp environment, it's really important to think about swapping clothes, maybe more often than you normally would. So if you've got damp, warm clothes that may be quite good, like these jumpsuit pants, but you come across something that normally you wouldn't put on, but it is dry and it's not worn, consider swapping things out and keeping them that way. Something that I haven't got here, but it's definitely worth looking at, are things like the raincoats as well. Now, the raincoats don't offer you much thermal protection, but they're very good for keeping things dry. So what you can do is put your other clothes in your backpack, and then put your raincoat on so your main body keeps dry. And also remember things like your backpack, your helmet, obviously your gloves and your shoes, and even your plate carrier or the vest you're working. These things all add up to keeping your character warm. So if something's wet or something's soaking, if you can wring it out, wring it out. If you can't, think about swapping it out or having some method to dry it off. So let's talk about drying things off then. So we just showed you how you can put something in your hands in order to wring it out so it's not as wet, so your insulation value goes up. But we also have fires. So always be prepared, especially when we're going to be on Sakhal, or if you're on somewhere like Namalsk, to create fires, because fires they can do a number of things. Or you can cook food on them, we can defrost food on them, which we're going to look at in a minute, or around them. But also, really importantly, we can dry things out and give ourselves a heat boost. So what we've got here is we've got kind of a couple of different types of fire. So we've got the fire barrel. So if you take a normal barrel, if you come across a normal barrel, and you poke holes in it with a knife, it will then become a fire barrel. And then as soon as it becomes a fire barrel, you can just put firewood in it, or sticks, and things like rags or paper to use let's take that lid off again, to light it, and then all of a sudden you've got a very nice fire that you can use inside buildings as well. That's what's really cool about a fire barrel. Now your fireplace, your kind of log fire that you make, let's get one lit so you can kind of see what's going on. Let's ignite this one. Now these ones you can't light inside structures, apart from structures that have got very high roofs, or some sheds you can light fireplaces. So if you put a fireplace together and you go inside a building and you don't get the option to light it, then what will happen is the building just isn't suitable for this sort of fire. But what you would find is you could have a barrel in there and light that, and that would work. And obviously if the building has a natural fireplace in it, like the houses do, then you're good. So what we can do here, say with our jumpsuit, they've dried off, we've got anything that's right, so our trousers are still wet, so we could put them on the floor. In fact, let's put that away and let's pick them up. Let's drop them a little bit closer. There we go. So they're a little bit closer now. So these are going to dry off. Now while that's doing that as well, if you look at in the bottom right hand corner of my temperature gauge, you can see that now we've got an up arrow, so it means we're getting warmer. Plus, we've got that little plus marker. Now that's like a heat boost. Oh, we just lost it. Now what that does is, by having as many of those pluses as you can, and I think we can go up to 3. Let's see if our trousers have dried out yet. Right, our trousers dried out. Let's put our trousers back on. If that goes up to 3, that gives us this heat boost. That means that we can stay warmer for a lot longer. So if you are planning on doing a long journey, say on Sakhal, it's going to be something like maybe getting in a boat and going across the sea to one of the other islands, or maybe even swimming, something like that. You'll want to make a fire, get really warm, get dry, get your heat boost up all the way, so the buff goes up to, see, it's gone up to 2 now, and then then leg it to the next place so you can kind of keep warm, so you can avoid going into that hypothermic condition when you're going to be using a lot of food, but also there's also a chance you're going to get ill with the cold or something like that, which is what we don't want. Now what we'll also do, let's run over here, and in cold conditions what we also have now is the problem of food being frozen. Now what we can do is, if we pick up this can of cola, and we'll pick up this fish and then this can of beans, and let's take them over to the fireplace, and let's put them down. There's a bit of debate about putting them down or putting them in. Obviously the danger of putting them in the fireplace is that you could ruin them if that happens. So they were frozen, and this is going to be happening on Sakhal, so when you find food it's going to be frozen. And then what we're waiting for, see, almost immediately it started to defrost. And then with drinks, you can drink them once they've started to defrost, and with food, that's when you can then eat them in terms of canned food, or then cook them in terms of normal food. That's still frozen, that's still frozen, that's defrosted. The other thing you can do is have things on your body. And the idea with that is, if you have something on your body, it should slowly start to defrost. I haven't really been able to test it myself properly. What we'll do, I tell you what we'll do. They're frozen, that's frozen. Let's put it in the fireplace just for a second to see what happens. Is that the wrong fireplace? Let's go around this side. Still frozen. They're still frozen. That one's not frozen anymore. Still frozen, still frozen, still frozen. That one's okay, let's put that in my backpack. Yeah, it's just getting damaged, you see. So I'm not sure whether doing that would work. Now, when you want it in a proper fireplace in a house, and you put the food on the trays, the levels inside the fireplace, that you'll probably find that would work all right. See, all right, so it's not frozen, it's just cold. So I could open that now with a knife. And if you look in the bottom right hand corner now, you can see I've got the 3 pluses next to my temperature, so I'm actually got the full heat buff now. And now I can eat these canned beans. Oh, it's snowing. No wonder things are cold. Right, they're still frozen. So eventually they will honestly thaw out. But you can see it can take an awful lot of time. So, well, while we're waiting for that, let's just go inside here. And I just wanted to discuss some of the things that you can start fires with. So you've got your lighter, you've got your matches, you've got your road flare. Remember, you can make a hand drill kit. So if you get a piece of bark off a tree and a stick, you can combine them, and that gives you a hand drill, which means you can light fires. If you've already got a torch, you could use that. If you've got a long torch, you can use that. You might be able to use a blowtorch as well, but I haven't got one to hand. One of the most critical things to help you survive in cold weather is going to be knives. So you're going to have your normal knives. You're going to find your steak knives and your combat knives and stuff. But always remember the bone knife and the stone knife. So when you ever come across any stones, make sure, especially early game, that you're constantly crafting stone knives. They don't last very long, but it could be the difference between your character dying and surviving, giving you the ability, for example, to make a drill kit in order to be able to... There we go, nice stone knife. In order to be able to get some bark off a tree or get some sticks. The bone knife, whenever you kill a chicken or any sort of animal and you've got bones, just take the bones into your hand and you'll get the option to create a bone knife. So you can have several of these as well ready to go. Again, they don't last very long, but they could be the difference between being able to create a fire and not being able to create a fire. Things like heat packs, I mean, they're nice and easy to use. Just take them into your hand, pop them, put them into your pocket, and they're going to help to keep you warm. Multivitamins are going to be very important as well, because you're going to want to try and avoid getting ill. Because in the cold, if you get cold and you get wet, your temperature drops, chances are you're going to catch a cold. So keep taking multivitamins if you've got them. If you do get ill, dry yourself off, try and find some tetracycline antibiotics and take them, and that should help. While we're here as well, when the Frostline map goes live, if you try and drink water from not the springs, or you try and eat snow, there's a chance that's going to give you heavy metal poisoning. So that's where these gelatin tablets are going to come in handy. So make sure that if you find some of those, you've got them to hand, or you'll be able to use something like a filtering bottle where you can put that water in there, and then that won't have the heavy metal poisoning in from the volcano. So we're going to have to see kind of how that works with snow, because we haven't really got that at this point. Let's go out there and have a look. Is any of this defrosted? So the can has, but the mackerel fillet is still frozen. So kind of gives you an idea of how long it would take to do that sort of stuff. Now I just wanted to go over here, go in this building here. And I just wanted to show you here. So if I get my lighter out, there we go. You see, I can't light this fireplace, but if I come over to this fire barrel and I put some fuel in it, and put some rags in it as kindling, I then get the option to ignite it. There it comes. And if you look at the smoke as well, if we come outside, in this lovely snow, there isn't really any smoke coming out. Now, inside some sheds and in buildings with tall ceilings, like some of the larger barns, you will be able to put a traditional fireplace. And of course in the houses you're going to have the normal sort of ovens and things that you can use to keep warm that way. Another thing that will be vital, I mean, I've got this tent here, so another reason to have, you know, cover with you all the time. Maybe not a tent this big, but one of the smaller sort of camping tents, so that you can pop it up, get under cover, get warmed up a little bit. But also vehicles, because when a vehicle is on and you're in a vehicle, you're going to get warmer from that as well, which I think is very, very cool. Well, not cool, which is very useful indeed. So having a vehicle to move around a cold map is a good one. Staying out of the bad weather is another one. And I tell you what I'll just finish off with, what we'll do, we'll just make a really quick fireplace just to kind of show you how quick it is. So there's some trees over here. So if you're out and about, as long as you've got some sort of knife, what you can do is if you just run up to a tree and gather some bark, like so. Let's get a couple of bits of bark. There we go. So we've got our bark. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're just going to split that up, and then we're going to get some firewood. It can be firewood or it can be a stick, anything like that. So we've got some firewood. Can we carry this? In fact, we'll just leave the firewood there for now. Right, let's just grab a stick. Now remember, sticks, often you can gather just with your hands. Gather long stick. Here we go. So we've got a long stick there. So we're going to put the long stick in our hand, and then we're going to split it into two smaller sticks. There we go. So we've got a short stick. Now we're going to go over to where we left the firewood, just down here. And with the firewood, we're just going to add a piece of bark to let's just put that in our hands, to the fire. So we get, as you can see, we get the option to craft a fireplace because we've got the bark in our hands. So we craft a fireplace like so, and it could be a stick on the ground, and we would get the same option, or we can combine them from. So now we've got our fireplace, and if we have a look, see the fireplace has got a piece of a log in it, and it's got some kindling. But now we need to make the way to light it. So we're just going to have a piece of dark bark, get our stick. We're going to combine them, and we get the option if we move our mouse wheel, or if you go, I think it's up and down on the D-pad, we can craft a hand drill kit. And then what should be on the floor next to us is a hand drill kit, which we can now put into our hands. Let's get rid of that. And then we should have the option to ignite the fireplace. Now, if it's too windy or it's raining, outside fireplaces won't always light. See if we've got lucky. There we did. So you can see, just by having a knife, we've got the ability to create a fire very, very fast. And depending on the server settings on Sakhal or somewhere like Namalsk, you may well find that if you haven't got very good equipment in terms of clothing insulation, or it's wet, you're going to kind of have to do this almost like this hopscotch or a relay system, where you're going to be going from fire to fire. So you're going to be running along, waiting until your character gets cold with hypothermia, doing a fire, getting the heat buff. As soon as you've got the heat buff, legging it further. As soon as your character gets cold, building another fire, and that sort of stuff. And that's going to break up your gameplay. Whereas really on Chernus and Livonia, the only thing you had to really worry about fires for was cooking things or drying your clothes out. But now you've also got the idea of it being too cold as well, to stop your character getting ill and going through that way. So as you can see, I'm starting to get the heat buff. I could take my clothes off to help them dry out, especially things like your shoes, which you can't wring out. Just be careful that as you take off things, you're losing insulation. It could be you start getting colder anyway, so you might have to get a little bit too close to the fire. See how they're getting on. Still wet, still damp. get too close and we start to take damage. Remember, if you get a stick and you sharpen a stick, you can then cook food over a normal fireplace. Let's put that other bit of wood on fire. So our gloves are now dry. Shoes are still damp. A lot of smoke coming up though, people will have to see us. It is snowing as well. See, these might be getting damp now because we're standing out in the rain. Okay, this is probably as good as we're going to get it, so let's put our shoes back on. Let's say farewell to that fire, and let's head back to our nice warm tent over here. So, there we go. Hopefully that's given you a few hints and tips and ideas about how to survive in the cold when Sakhal comes along as part of the Frostline expansion, or if you're on a map like Namalsk, or any community server for PC, PlayStation or Xbox, where the server owners have decided to turn down the temperature because it's something we can do very, very easily indeed, and you're just going to have to think about how you're going to defrost this stuff. So, when a Sakhal comes out properly, of course, I'll do an updated video with these sort of techniques in, but again, hopefully this will whet your appetite and get you ready for surviving in the snow. That's enough from me. What do you think? Put your questions and comments down below, and I'll see you again soon.